Okay, let's now go through this example together. So example 1, the points A, B, C, and D in the diagram represent 4 ships at sea that are within communication range. The arrows indicate the direction of the radio transmission. So if we have a look here, this is saying that, A and B can talk back and forth to each other, A and C can talk back and forth to each other. But you see with C and B, C can talk to B, but B can't talk directly to C. If B wants to talk to C, it would first have to go to A and then A to C. So you would have to go, if B wants to say something to C, it would first send a message to A and then A would send that message to C. So the arrows here are very important. Okay, so with that being said, it says A, set up a communication matrix M for this scenario using a 4x4 matrix as there are 4 ships with columns and rows labeled A, B, C, and D. Now, it's very important that we've been told that this is from ship and this is the to ship. Okay, so let's now read through these and see if we can figure out where to put the zeros and ones. First things first, we're going to put a 0 here because this is saying from ship A to ship A. Well, that really doesn't make any sense. If ship A needs to say something to itself, it can just talk to itself, right? So you put a 0 here. A to A, we say it doesn't exist because, if you're in ship A and you need to talk to someone in ship A, you can just tell them. You don't need to send a message anywhere, really. All right, can A speak to B? And it can because there's an arrow there, so we put a 1 there. Can A speak to C? A can speak to C because there's an arrow there, so we put a 1 there. Can A speak to D? There is no direct communication between A and D, so we put a 0 there. Can B speak to A? So can B speak to A? Yes, because we've got that arrow there, so we put a 1 there. Can B speak to B? Again, we put a 0 here because it really doesn't make any sense. And this will now kind of lead us into the idea that we're actually going to put a 0 there and a 0 there because this is redundant information, which brings us back to this sentence right here. The leading diagonal of the communication matrix is redundant because, it makes no sense to talk about communicating with yourself. So A to A, B to B, to say it simply, if you're in ship B and you've got a message for ship B, you would just go tell someone on the ship. You know what I mean? You don't need to go to another boat to then tell them. So the leading diagonal here really is redundant. The information is pointless. Okay, we continue. Can B speak to C? B can't speak to C because there is no arrow there. So we put a 0 there. Can B speak to D? No, it cannot. There's no direct communication between B and D. We continue. Can C speak to A? C can speak to A because we've got that arrow there. Can C speak to B? C can speak to B because we've got that arrow there. And can C speak to D? C can speak to D because we've got that arrow there. So we've got a 1 there. Next, can D speak to A? Yes, it can. Can D speak to B? No, it can. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I got ahead of myself then, didn't I? My bad. Can D speak to A? No, it cannot. There's no arrow there. Can D speak to B? No, it cannot. Can D speak to C? Yes, it can. So 0, 0, 1 there, 1, 1, 0, 1 there, 1, 0, 0, 1. Perfect. We got it. So that is the very basics of how a communication matrix works.